to argue with time. Baby, that's alright, and I think it's just fine. We dance with breathlessness and restlessness, and that's fine. Listen to your heart and careful with its translucent bird off in the distance. Listen to your heart and careful with its long distance calling you my missus.
Hello, welcome. Welcome to episode 5 of We Are Not a Wasteland. Today, we have some very special guests. As we all know, today is August 6th, 2020, and it is the 75th anniversary of the day the United States government bombed Japan. Today, on this day, they bombed Hiroshima. And in 3 days from now, on August 9th, they bombed Nagasaki. But as we learned on the July 16th program, the first place to be bombed by the United States was actually New Mexico during the Trinity test. And today, we're going to have our very special guests join us from all over the world. We have new friends from Japan joining us. We have all of our local webinar team. We have some local activists, Adina Elder. We'll talk about her later. And then, of course, we also have our live artists and another special guest helping us with the music from right now. She's based in France. And so I just wanted to welcome everyone and remind everyone that the series we started was really to spread awareness about the whole tech and WCS high-level radioactive waste proposals. And that's why we call this We Are Not a Wasteland. So we still need to send comments in, and we'll be posting a lot of information, a lot of links in the chat. Today, we got started a little bit late, but we're gonna just keep rolling with it. So if you are watching this along with other webinars happening live, there's so many online events for the 75th anniversary. We invite you to watch as much as you can, and we will also have this video on our social media videos page. So it's available for you to use, and we'd love it if you could share it and for this to become an educational tool in the work that you do. And so right now, I'm just gonna invite our friend here, Eileen O'Shaughnessy, to join. And before I skip to you, Eileen, I forgot to introduce myself, which is probably really important. Yat e she Leona Morgan Yinche, Twitch eating ishle, Tena Bithni Bashichi, Kia Ani Dashiche, Twoglini Dashinella. So I am Leona Morgan. I'm the coordinator and one of the co-founders of the Nuclear Issues Study Group. And we are the ones bringing this programming to you live. And Eileen O'Shaughnessy is a musician. She's a lecturer at UNM, and she's also a co-founder of the Nuclear Issues Study Group. So Eileen, take it away.
Thank you so much, Leona. Yeah, so I just want to echo a really warm welcome, not only to our really special guests who are joining us on this 5th episode of the We Are Not a Wasteland webinar series, but also to our live viewers out there. We've got people watching, I know, around the world on our Facebook. And if you happen to miss our live broadcast, you can always watch it later on. It will live on Facebook. And I just want to say a few words about the subtitle of our program this evening, which is No More Hiroshimas, No More Church Rocks, Making Links to Break the Chain. So we're making global linkages, literally international linkages with people from around the world in order to break what we call the nuclear fuel chain. The nuclear industry calls it a nuclear fuel cycle, which is extremely misleading. And it's what we call nuke speak. It's language that implies that somehow making nuclear weapons and making nuclear energy is a closed loop cycle. that it's something nice and clean and green like recycling. And we are completely against that. We know that that's not the truth. And part of what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be shedding light on the truth of how nuclearism has been an extremely destructive force around the world, and also how communities, grassroots communities around the world have resisted from the very beginning. So I'd like to now introduce our next speaker. So the next person who I'm going to introduce is a part of our core group, and a new member of our core group at the Nuclear Issues Study Group. We are really lucky to have amazing young people, amazing elders as well. We are a multi-generational, multiracial, women-led group at the Nuclear Issues Study Group, and we have an amazing team. So in the Nuclear Issues Study Group, we have a very clear value of making all of the information that we share as accessible as possible. And so that means translating into multiple languages often. And we would like to just offer our Spanish-speaking audience out there support. We do have volunteers who are Spanish speakers. And the next person who I'm introducing is going to say a few words about that. So I'd like to introduce Tea Salazar, who is a longtime resident and grew up right here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She's a recent graduate of the University of New Mexico. She received her bachelor's in political science, and I had the honor of having her in multiple classes with me. And now she's a core group member of the Nuclear Issues Study Group. So welcome, Tea.
Hi everyone, hola y buenas tardes y bienvenidos. Les queremos avisar que la transmisión en vivo del seminario se va a presentar en inglés. Vamos a trabajar duro para que las grabaciones sean disponibles para todos con subtítulos en español. Nosotros solo podemos proporcionar un resumen del DEIS en español, no el DEIS completo. Cheque los comentarios por la versión en español del resumen del DEIS hecha por Oltec, que propone el almacenamiento de residuos. Si tiene alguna pregunta o preocupación sobre accesibilidad de nuestro seminario, por favor, mándenos un correo electrónico y haremos lo mejor para acomodar a todos. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Tea. Thank you so much. And next up, I'm going to introduce another core group member of the Nuclear Issues Study Group, someone who I am proud to call a friend. Cal McManus is a striving abolitionist, body worker living on occupied Tiwa lands. Their current study is in liberating the body from internal and external oppressive structures. Welcome, Cal. Oh, Cal, I think you're muted.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good evening. So if you've seen previous webinars, you know that around the Nuclear Issues Study Group, we hold art and music and expression in high value. Core group members of NISG create and work in mediums of visual art, poetry, the sound current, as you've already heard, and the body. Movements need art, and art explains movements in a very quick and easy way. So I encourage each of you, if you have a pen and a pencil or the ability to move your body or a way to hum or shake your body tonight, to express, to do that. And it's with great excitement and honor that we're all friends here, and I get to introduce and share community with our live artist for tonight, Melina Barron-Deutsch. And Melina is a non-binary artist, activist, and organizer born and raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They're a harm reduction and HIV specialist at First Nation Community Health Source, and the author and editor of Albuquerque's LGBTQ+ e-newsletter, The Gay Agenda Weekly. Melina, hi. Can you say some words about your work and process for the evening?
Yes, thanks so much for the introduction, Cal. Really appreciate it. Yeah, hi everyone, my name is Melina. I'm gonna be doing some live painting for you tonight, just based on my reactions to what everyone's talking and sharing about tonight, and I'm really excited and honored to be here. I just wanted to show briefly a bit about some of my recent work. Masks Who Wear Masks is a zine I've recently made about trans masked people and the importance of wearing masks. These are local folks here in New Mexico as far as public safety. I also make stickers that are based on my paintings, and I'm also journaling and organizing with music for folks who are marginalized. I recently helped organize To Bloom in the Desert, celebrating Cutie BIPOC resilience and resistance and joy, and celebrating local artists and musicians, and also painting and drawing from those specific events. So yeah, those are just some of my drawings and examples of my art, and I really look forward to showing you guys more in a bit. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks Melina, and we will come back to check in with you in just a little bit. Now back to Leona.
Thanks, Cal. And thank you to Melina as well. We're really excited to see what you bring us at the end of the show. So right now, we're going to take a few minutes to explain the topics of tonight. Today is a very solemn day. It's a very important day, and a lot of you I know are probably aware of course, the audience, ourselves with the Nuclear Issues Study Group, and our friends and our comrades, our families know what we do. But the important thing is to tell the rest of the world why today is important and what it's all about. I've spoken to many people who had no idea, you know, what is July 16th, and a few people had no idea what is August 6th and August 9th. So Eileen and I, we're going to take a minute. I'm going to share a presentation, and Eileen and I will walk you through it to just explain a little bit about the history of this day. And the first thing we want to do is to show you what we're talking about. So hopefully everyone can see the, can you see the map? Is it showing up on your screen? Okay, so yeah. I want to thank our team, because we have some real good graphic designers in our team. So this one's by Taya. You just heard her do the Spanish announcement. So today we're traveling across the world, and we'll be hearing from people from all of these places today. Well, actually not Nagasaki, but we have a lot of our Japanese friends joining us. I'm really excited to have you here. First of all, we're going to start with Hiroshima. We're going to hear a story from Seishi Morikawa. He's our first speaker. And so we will learn about some of the atrocities that have occurred there, as well as in Nagasaki on August 6th. And I just wanted to explain a little bit. We have a lot of, a few images, and so maybe we should do a little disclaimer. I hope nothing is too graphic for anyone, but I'm gonna pause for a minute, and I'm gonna take a step back, actually, because as we look at the map, one thing that's really important for us to do is the land acknowledgement. And so I'm gonna hand it over to Eileen to talk a little bit about that as we're looking at this beautiful map of our Mother Earth. So go ahead, Eileen.
Thank you, Leona. Yeah, so this is something that we really value, again, in our group since the very beginning, since we founded in 4 years ago, is to educate ourselves in terms of the history of wherever we are, wherever we're located. And right now, Leona and I are both currently in Albuquerque. Most of NISG, we are located in what's called Albuquerque, New Mexico, which the longer history of that is that this is stolen indigenous land. This is Tiwa land that we are located on right now. And for those of you who are out there, especially if you're located in a settler colonial nation, such as the US or Canada, or Northern Ireland or New Zealand, these are all places that are founded through settler colonialism. I encourage you to do the research about the original indigenous people on whose land you live, and whose resources and you are essentially using, because that's part of the work that we're doing here today, is the struggle of remembering against forgetting. That's part of what we're trying to do here and make these linkages.
And I think something that we are doing also in-house is to recognize not just whose land we're on and to, do something about it, but these webinars are not just a one-time event. Our new friends from South Africa who are rejoining us here again today, as you can see on the map, it points out Shinkolobwe Mine. They are going to stay with us in partnership to continue working on some of the issues that they have. And I'm very happy to offer assistance to other folks out there when we're dealing with issues of uranium mining, especially on Indigenous people's land. And the Nuclear Issues Study Group will be happy to help with any of the other issues folks have who are watching. If you need assistance with organizing or educational materials or awesome maps, please email us at protectnewmexico@gmail.com. So as we're looking at the map, today we'll be hearing about what happened in Japan 75 years ago, and that could not be possible without the uranium from the Shinkolobwe uranium mine. If you need to hear more about that, we invite you to watch our last episode, which is available on our Facebook video page. And then we're also going to hear from Edith Hood, because during July 16th event, we focused on Trinity, the test of a nuclear weapon here in New Mexico, but we really want to hear from local people who were impacted also by the church rock spill of 1979. So I'm just going to share some of the pictures, and I hope, Eileen, if you want to add anything, please jump in here. We have oh, okay, I'm at the end, that's why, excuse me.
Yeah, we lost the picture. Okay.
Oh,
no, that's okay.
Here we go again. Okay, so here is what that test looked like from the atmosphere. I hope you all are looking at this. Can you all see it on your screen?
Yeah, it's showing up.
Okay, so I want to just emphasize that this is just one mushroom cloud among thousands, if you count all of the nuclear tests. Mm-hmm. There was a presentation that I saw earlier this week that was of the drawings done by people after the explosion. The drawings were crown drawings. I can't share them today because of the copyright images, but if you go to either the Hiroshima or Nagasaki museum websites, you should be able to access a lot of information about the actual history and first-person accounts. The devastation that occurred there is amazing. When I was lucky enough to travel to Japan in 2013, and Hiroshima was like a brand new city. And I thought, why is this so new? And I didn't realize they had to completely rebuild it after the explosions. Here's the mushroom cloud over Nagasaki.
And can I say something about that mushroom cloud, Leona? I think I just want to point out that in the class that I teach, Nuclear New Mexico, we talk about the difference between the bomber's perspective and the perspective of those who are being bombed. And the mushroom cloud really represents the perspective of the bombed, because it's from, of the bomber, because it's from above, right? And in the US, as we learn this history about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we are fed this version, and we're given this image, this mushroom cloud image, as our image for what what nuclear represents. But I think that the task is to see this image as a cloud that represents 150,000 souls, 150,000 lives that were taken violently through an act of war. And that's why it's important that we see not only the mushroom cloud, but also the devastation, because there's a sanitizing process that happens over here in the US, unfortunately. Right here in Albuquerque, we have a museum, the Nuclear Museum, and that basically gives an extremely sanitized version of this history. And we see many mushroom clouds, we see missiles. It's extremely celebratory. But in comparison to the Hiroshima Peace Museum, which tells a different side of the story, it shows the destruction. And that's part of why we're trying to make these linkages here today, is to get the full history, the full picture.
Thanks, Eileen. And I'm going to move forward with some of the other images. And as you notice, a lot of these images don't even show the people. Let me go back to this one. As I said, some of the drawings that are available online, there were images of bodies all over the streets, people drinking the black rain that came down after the explosion. There were images of babies, and a lot of, it was quite disturbing. And so one of the things that was said is that the locals weren't able to take pictures. They were prohibited by the US military. And so that's why some of these images look so sterile. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to our next speaker's topic. Edith Hood will be joining us by phone from Redwater Pond Road community. And this is just an overhead view of where Edith's from. There's a mine here, UNC mine, the Kerr-McGee mine where Edith worked. And then this is her community. You can see these houses here. And then just down the road, about half a mile, less than half a mile, maybe half a kilometer, is the site of the 1979 Church Rock tailings spill. And so this is, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And also Edith's work to bring awareness. This is the first event they held in 2009 to honor the 30th anniversary of that. Well, not to honor the spill, but to honor the people who survived that spill. And they continue with that event, except this year, they were not able to do so because of the virus. But we'll hear from Edith a little bit later. And this is a picture of a little goat that was born in 2006. So if the impacts from Church Rock are still seen and felt, we know that the impacts that occurred to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Trinity region, as well as anywhere nuclear facilities are located, they are impacted. One of the most impacted areas is the Shin-Kolobwe area. We heard last time from our speakers about some of the issues there, and they'll be with us today for our roundtable. And so that's just a little overview. I know we're a little bit over time, and I want to ask everyone, just stay with us as much as you can, but it's going to be a long program tonight. So we'll take a break for you a little bit later. And, you can always continue watching at a later time at your convenience. And we hope you do. We hope you stay with us for the whole show. We're going to transition to our next thing. Eileen, is there anything else you wanted to share about the slideshow?
Yeah, just that, I mean, it's a delicate thing, I think, showing pictures of human suffering. And, we certainly do not want to disrespect people by showing those pictures. But as I said, in the US, we are given such a sanitized version. And so it's this balance of being able to, truly honor that people suffered and not have this false, triumphant, sanitized narrative. That's something that I know I was fed in an education here in the US, was that, that it was necessary to drop these bombs. And that was just not true. We know that it was not true. Yeah.
And right now we're going to start our first interview. The first speaker will read a statement, and this will give us a little bit of an idea of what actually happened. The story we're going to hear is from Mr. Seishi Morikawa. If you could turn on your camera in a minute here, Mr. Morikawa. We are very happy to have you with us this evening, and good morning. I know it's tomorrow over there, and we're still here dealing with the August 6th. So I'd like to read Seishi's bio now. Thank you again for being here and spending all this time with us. Seishi Morikawa is a second-generation survivor of the atomic bomb in Hiroshima. He has been involved in activism aiming for sufficient medical security and welfare for second and third generation survivors and nuclear abolition. He is the assistant manager of the second and third generation branch, Kanagawa Atomic Bomb Sufferers Association, and A-Bomb Legacy Advocate of Hiroshima Peace Culture Foundation. Mr.
Okay.
Morikawa, you can take it away. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for your invitation. I'm very happy to join this meeting. Actually, I studied in Washington, D.C. when I was 20 years old, but I didn't speak English at all for a long time. Last year, my friend Toshia Morita encouraged me to restart English for nuclear abolition. Anyway, let me read the prepared essay, please. My father was exposed to the atomic bombing in Hiroshima, 1945. He was at the Hiroshima Central Station of Japan Broadcasting Corporation, which was only 0.6 miles away from ground zero. I was born in 1954, so I'm the second generation of the atomic bomb survivor. Today, I would like to talk about the reality of the second generation A-bomb survivors, and I would like you to know what the effect of nuclear weapons has been on humanity. First of all, to make sure, please let me define the second generation A-bomb survivors. The second generation A-bomb survivors means the people born after the atomic bombing to parents who were either both or one of which were exposed to the atomic bombing. So they are distinguished from in utero survivors. One of the definitive traits of nuclear disaster is that it causes pain and suffering across multiple generations. As a second generation of the atomic bomb survivor, I have felt this time and time again. Sickly from a young age, I spent my days in and out of the hospital due to bouts of high fever and gastrointestinal diseases. In addition, minor scratches and cuts took a long time to heal and often became infected. One of many symptoms that left doctors perplexed were marked down as cause unknown or
Okay, it appears that Mr. Morikawa's video has frozen. So we're gonna just give it a minute and hope that he rejoins us. Right now, we're going live, and this is something that happens. We have a lot of challenges from the Zoom universe, and I'm just going to give him a minute to restart his Zoom. Eileen, any announcements?
Just the joys of technology. It brings us together and it also brings frustrations. But I just have to say how moved I am by Mr. Morikawa's words, and that he's here with us today on this extremely significant day as a second generation Hibakasha. And it looks like we may have lost him on the video now. Hopefully he can call back in. I think for now, while we're waiting to figure this out, we're going to transition to the next portion, which is a music video. So we're going to give Mr. Seishi Morikawa a moment to rejoin us because his words are extremely important. But now we're going to shift over into a music video. So we will return. Yes, Leona.
Actually, I think the music video really goes well after we hear his words. If you don't mind, maybe we can jump to Edith's interview. So this is a 14-minute video that I'm going to share, and I hope that will give our friend in Japan a minute to come back to the Zoom universe. And why don't we after that, we'll probably check back in with our resident artists. And so I appreciate everyone's help to be able to roll with the punches. Oh, here he is.
Looks like
Okay.
he's joined us. Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to hand it back over to Seishi, but we are ready to go if we have any other technical difficulties. We have lots to share, so don't go away. Thank you for coming back, Seishi.
Seishi, can you hear us?
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
just dropped out a little bit there, but
Okay. So I spent my days in and out of the hospital due to bouts of high fever, and gastrointestinal diseases. Oh, I skip and I speak up. At the age, so my wife's womb never developed. As a result, the baby was unable to enter this world as a fully formed individual. I was very able to hold back tears when I learned the news. On the one hand, there are healthy second-generation survivors. However, there are a substantial number of us who are sickly like me. Those that pass away from serious diseases such as cancer, leukemia, and cardiovascular diseases, and unborn second and third generation survivors who never even had a chance to enter and see this world. The atomic bomb emitted massive amounts of radiation. It exposed the reproductive cells of the A-bomb survivors, which could be the cause of the genetic and hereditary effects to the second generations. Many second generation bomb survivors are facing the following problems and concerns. First, they are concerned about their parents' health and the welfare of first generation bomb victims at large. Second, they are also concerned about their own health and how possible illness may impact their livelihood. The illnesses and symptoms common among second generation bomb victims are diverse, unique for each victim, and are not limited to typical radiation illnesses such as leukemia, thyroid cancer, multiple myeloma, and other types of cancers. Instead, problems range from digestive disorders, heart diseases, respiratory problems, nosebleeds and asthma, abnormal leukocyte counts, and small wounds that are difficult to heal and fester easily. Third, second generation bomb victims face social prejudice and discrimination. Some have experienced marriage or employment discrimination when they were younger. Even after marrying and conceiving children, they may be concerned about the health of their children and worried about the discrimination they may be subject to as third-generation bomb victims. In addition, if their children marry, they are concerned about the health of their grandchildren who are fourth-generation bomb victims. Nuclear radiation, in fact, is an increasingly ubiquitous threat that is already spreading around the globe, exemplified by nuclear weapons tests, radiation exposure via working in uranium mines, which is required for the operation of nuclear power stations used for plutonium extraction, a necessary resource for nuclear weapons production. Radiation exposure via working in nuclear power stations and radiation exposure via nuclear power plant accidents which afflict residents in the area. Furthermore, subsequent generations are already feeling the damaging impact of nuclear radiation. Indeed, Japan is not the only country that has ever experienced a nuclear disaster. Hiroshima is not the first ever atomic bomb site, and Nagasaki is no longer the world's last atomic bomb site. On July 16, 1945, The first atomic bomb test was conducted in Alamogordo in the United States, exposing local residents. Even in regards to the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, at least 10% of the victims were Korean, Chinese, or peoples from other parts of Asia and Western countries. In addition, the nuclear tests at the Marshall Islands, which were conducted 67 times from 1946 to 1958 by the United States, also affected many local inhabitants, many of whom have died or suffered from radiation sickness ever since. Despite all this, over 2,000 nuclear tests have been conducted so far around the world, and the effects can be seen globally. Similarly, nuclear arms production necessitates nuclear reactor facilities and nuclear fission processes, of which plutonium is a byproduct. This is why nuclear power plants exist. Nuclear accidents, including 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and Fukushima, have afflicted or even killed many people through radiation sickness. Indeed, nuclear arms production and uranium extraction are heavily reliant on human labor, which has been largely filled by indigenous people or the underprivileged local population and cannot be sustained without inflicting more harm on laborers and local communities. Nuclear arms and humanity simply cannot coexist. I ardently hope that many countries, including Japan and the United States, will ratify the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons immediately to put it into effect and paving the way for nuclear abolition. At the same time, every victim of nuclear radiation, regardless of whether their exposure was a result of nuclear weapons, nuclear tests, uranium mining, working at nuclear power stations, or accidents at nuclear power plants, along with their descendants, should be entitled to receive medical and welfare support to guarantee their right to a comfortable life. The human rights of victims and nuclear abolition are two sides of the same coin. I think it's important. We cannot discuss one without the other. I would like to achieve these goals with you. Union is strength. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Morikawa.
And Mr. Morikawa, would you mind if we posted your statement online? Is that okay with you to do?
Yes.
Okay, because I feel so bad that we had to chop it in half when the Zoom failed, and it really would be great so folks can read the whole thing. And thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
We might have one question for you here, if you're okay with that.
Yes.
Eileen?
I just want to reflect back how moving it is to hear you making all these linkages about how, from the nuclear testing, and as someone who has been directly impacted by the violence of nuclear weapons in your family, and also the story that you shared about the way your DNA potentially has been impacted by trying to bring new life into the world is really powerful, because you're not only talking about how you personally have been impacted, even though you have, you're making connections to how people have been impacted beyond that. So I want to really thank you for that. It's really powerful to hear. I think Leona has a question. We came up with a couple questions that we wanted to ask.
Yes, I will ask just one question. After meeting with you and hearing about your story, I think I have many questions really, but the main question for today, we'll ask you another question during the roundtable. So today, Eileen and I, we both appreciate you being with us because, you know, we both teach about these issues, and we're very curious. Well, not just Eileen and I, the whole team. Can you tell us about your perspective of the Japanese government's position on nuclear? Because it seems that they support nuclear energy. They support so-called peacetime use of nuclear, or some people call it civilian use of nuclear, despite everything that has happened from Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and also Fukushima. And also with the presence of the US military in Japan. Can you tell us what is Japan's position on use of nuclear?
Okay. Japanese government has been eager to gain the capability of nuclear possession. It's just because Japan has been persistent to promote the nuclear power plants or fast nuclear neutron reactor, even though nuclear power stations have a lot of problems and are faced with so much difficulty. Also, for this reason, Japanese government is asserting that there is nothing to be worried about the effect of radiation. It's harmless, it's under control, Prime Minister said like this, and trying to make the most of Tokyo Olympic game to that end. The government is planning to put an end to the medical security or welfare support for the nuclear victims with only first generation Avon survivors. Japanese government has been insisting as follows. The hereditary effect of radiation has not been recognized. The government always makes it a rule to completely follow the perspective of Radiation Effects Research Foundation, so-called RERF, which is co-sponsored by Japanese and American governments. This foundation was reorganization of Atomic Bomb Casualty Commission, so-called ABCC, founded by the United States in 1947. This RERF is postulating that it's gonna take some more decades to make a conclusion of the hereditary effect. Our average age is close to 70. So it indicates that we are just the experimental materials. That's one of the reasons why we recognize the atomic bombing as human experimentation. Thus, they have been accumulating the data without any medical coverage, compensation, or welfare support. Just a little. Japanese government aims at dividing first generation survivors, subsequent generation survivors, and also victims of Fukushima nuclear power plant accidents, especially unaided evacuees or internally displaced people. That's all. Does it make sense?
That does. Thank you, Seishi. Yeah, that's, you know, I mean, another kind of similarity that I see across these global connections is corruption and secrecy, because what you're describing that the Japanese government is doing in terms of trying to, you know, spread the message that there's nothing to worry about, that radiation is safe. We hear those same messages by the nuclear industry here today as well, and it's just as dangerous, and it's just as full of BS, frankly. Thank you so much, Seishi. We're going to be coming back to you momentarily with the roundtable discussion, so hang on. And again, we thank you so much for your words.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to transition to a little shift in tone here. We've been hearing a lot about kind of the issues of the day, the heaviness of this day, honoring what happened 75 years ago. And from the beginning of these webinars, this is our 5th webinar. we have incorporated music and art really intentionally because we know that as human beings, we process information in many different ways. And music and art is a really important way that we can both process and make meaning of these issues. So I'm going to introduce our next musician, who is somebody that I had the honor of meeting in France when Leona and I traveled to France a couple summers ago. We were in Narbonne, which is in the south of France, and Leona was on the organizing team for a really amazing gathering of international folks from around the world. We were the contingent from the US, just Leona and I, which was like a no pressure situation. But we got to meet people from all over, including Japan and Ireland, Germany, France, India, people from all over who were working to stop the violence and the threat of nuclear destruction. And Ikaki was one of those people who I got to meet, and she's a Japanese flute musician. She's currently living in France, which is how we met her. And I'm going to read her bio and introduce this next song. Leona, do you want to say anything before I do that?
Well, I just wanted to say that when we did this camp in France, we didn't have any real division between the various aspects of the use of uranium. We had brought together people from all over the world dealing with uranium mining, uranium weapons, and I'm going to call it uranium energy, because all too often we hear nuclear and people's minds, their eyes glaze over, that, you know, that's like a trigger word. But for us in Diné country, as well as in other places where they mine uranium, you know, sometimes I think these fights are really separated. And so we never know where the uranium goes, if it goes to power plants or bombs. And the camp was situated right next to a uranium processing facility called Malvézy. And it was right next to a bunch of grape vineyards where they were producing grapes for wine. And so I just wanted to put it out there that the entire nuclear fuel chain, no matter where it is, poses risk. And so sorry to add that. I know we're getting on many topics, but yeah, it was an awesome camp, had a great time. And Eileen had the pleasure of actually playing music with Ikaki. So now we'll hear some.
I did. Yeah. Thank you for that, Leona. That's an important backdrop. Okay, so I'm going to read Iki's bio here. So Iki is a Japanese flute musician. She studied forest ecology and ecosystems at Forest Faculty of Agriculture at Tottori University. At that time, she took the sociology professor Makoto Nakano's seminars. And in that seminar, she went to listen to Hibakusha and visit Hiroshima to know more about the war history. And throughout her career, she works as a flautist at events that are promoting peace and environmental protection with journalists, artists, and many people who are moving towards social change. So we're really excited to have this next music video. She sent us a few videos that we are going to be sharing, this one, and there'll be one at the end of the program. And I'm going to say a few words to introduce this song, because she wrote a little narrative to give us a backdrop for this particular song, which is called Lotus. And I'm going to read her narrative. So she says, I created this music inspired by one of my favorite flowers, the lotus. The more muddy or impure the water that the lotus grows in, the more beautiful and large the lotus flowers will grow. The flower acts to purify the water in order to make it a place where other living things can live in clear, healthy water. I made the connection to this in our daily lives. Sometimes our lives are unreasonable, sometimes extremely sad and painful. But once we move through it, we can realize that the things that you take for granted are in fact very precious. And we realize what is truly important in our lives. And we have a greater and deeper sense of gratitude for everyday life. So when you see someone who is suffering in the same situation, we can be a light to them. And when we see their smile, we can understand that life is deeper than we thought. I created this song with the hope that we can all walk through life together in this way. So without without further ado, we're going to play the song Lotus by Ikaki.
It's such a beautiful, such a beautiful piece of music there. It's only two minutes long, but I really enjoy that piece, and I'm so happy that Aki and I we worked it out to actually bring her in live next time. But I think her neighbors would not appreciate her playing the flute at 2 a.m. So we're gonna probably have a program with her in the future. Next, we have a video. Before I start that video, I'm just wondering if we have anything from the O'Shaughnessy camp.
Just one thing that I want to say real quick, that's kind of cool, is that the lotus flower is what's called a phytoremediator, meaning that it has the ability, as she referenced in her description, it has the ability to pull toxins from water and from soil and to cleanse it. And one of my colleagues in sustainability studies, actually his main project, just want to shout out Orner Orozco, he was studying lotus flowers for that reason. And we love, examples like that of phytoremediators who can help clean up toxins. So it's a beautiful metaphor. It's a beautiful song. Thank you, Aki.
Thanks, Aileen. Next, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who could not be with us live because there's no internet connection out at the Redwater Pond Road. And anyone going out to visit the community, maybe during July 16th, the next event on July 16th, 2021, I recommend you are aware there's also no cell reception. So the Nuclear Issues Study Group, we don't mind these challenges. We did everything we can to bring Edith in live, and so we recorded her interview, and we'll also have her joining the roundtable by phone. And so I want to say thank you to Edith Hood, one of my personal heroes. Edith Hood is a Dene matriarch. She is a mother of 4 and grandmother to 9. Edith Hood worked at the Kerr-McGee mine from 1976 to 1982, and she is the primary contact for the Redwater Pond Road Community Association. And Edith is also the primary coordinator with the EPA on the 5-year plan cleanup of the abandoned uranium mines on Navajo. We have about 523, but there's 15,000 nationally. And so she's going to talk about the impacts from the ones that are right near her home.
Yad Edith Hood in Shia. I kid does the good at Nasha. But I'll make it short and say Red Water Pond Road, Church Rock, New Mexico, USA.
Can you tell us about the uranium mine back? Where's the uranium mine at?
We have Kermagee Corporation out of Oklahoma on the north side of our residence in our community. And we also had United Nuclear on the south side of the community. And we have a mill site about a mile down the road. And this is all in Church Rock, New Mexico at the Red Water Pond Road community. We were just children when the drilling companies came in to our community. And I'm not too sure if there was communication between the older people and these people that were coming in, and even the Navajo tribe. But they all started coming in the 1960s to drill, I guess, exploratory drilling for uranium. So by the end of the 60s, there was buildings going up, setting up the mine, and they just started going into mining. The first one was United Nuclear on the south side, and then of course Kermagee, which today is known as Quivira mine. And then the cell site was started later on, not within just right there, but I think they wanted to take the ore somewhere nearby, so they set up the cell site down the way.
What is this, the cell site? Is that the mill?
Yeah, the mill. I always call it the cell site. That was with UNC. So I think they did all of what they had to do there with UNC, United Nuclear. But Kermagee had to take their ore all the way sometimes into Ambrosia Lake by Grants. I worked at Kermagee from the end of 1976 through till the layoff in 1982, about 5.5 years.
Did they tell you how dangerous it was, the stuff you were working with?
You know, that's one thing I think about. Never did I hear unsafe or dangerous, because I happened to be working with the probe technicians with the geology department, and we were the ones that took around those portable instruments, going to each miner's stope and measuring the amount of the grade of the ore. So we did a lot with that. There's a little thing, I guess I forget what it's called, but it measures radiation, and it was sitting where that little building we had, it was all, it's covered up in a lead box, now that I think about it. But never known that was not safe. If I was educated about this, I wouldn't probably have gone to work there.
You tell us what happened on the morning of July 16, 1979.
Well, for us in the community, we probably heard about it till the next day. And certainly I didn't hear about it till the next day at work. It had already happened the other morning. And that's how much it was not like today where you instantly get messages and stuff. No. And we didn't hear about it for a few days. And at the time, to us it's a flood, it's bad. Something goes down the well. But not really known, about radiation and the bad stuff that was in that liquid, which we now know that was what it was. But at the time, it really was not alarming, I guess, for most people. Not till they get sick or not till something affects them, especially physically. Then, we were in a dangerous place.
So when the spill happened, they didn't even tell you what was in it and how dangerous it was for the animals to drink it or for it to end up in the community?
No, that's the thing, looking back and thinking about it, we never heard about the disadvantages or the bad stuff about this. All we know that was the mining was good economy for the country, and it's all in spirit with, making the country look good. They're making weapons, but you never knew what went into those weapons. Till 40 years later, you hear about the bad stuff.
Did they tell you what the uranium was used for? If it was the bombs or energy?
I've heard of the bombings and all that, but never realizing, that uranium and those things were in there. And after hearing all about that, and now you sort of put yourself back in the classroom and start studying these things. And like for my community, of course our children were getting sick, and we started to get into the health study, finding out that we've been breathing the air, dealing with the soil, all the things that all the elements that we use was affected.
Talking about the health impacts that you were seeing in your kids and the other people in the community that were getting sick, did the company or the government ever come back to pay for either the health studies or some of the medical bills that from their own operations? Did they come and do something to help the community with the mess they made?
Well, it was a little too late to be doing something like that, because we did not gather these information till in the 2000s. But we were already worried about the land, but not the health of the land, not the health or of the people, till we started seeing those signs. And the company, even up to now, done nothing.
Oh, how about the government? I understand they started doing some cleanup. They said 5-year plans back in 2008. Auto now is supposed to be second 5-year plans. Have they really cleaned up the area around your house? And what did they do? Did they do a good job?
Well, we had 3 minor cleanups in the area, and the first one was around my older sister's home, taking out 6 inches of soil, and with also the other 2 places, they did the same thing, but we're still in the talks of having it cleaned up where these places will be recontaminated with what's still there. So in a way, I think, I don't know, it's done backwards for me. So we're going to recontaminate it again. And at that time, it's on a voluntary basis if we want to stay there or go somewhere else and live for the time being.
What does the community want? What do you want for your family? What do the neighbors want? Otto, what do the children want? Your kids, what do they want to see happen? What do they want the government to do about this?
Well, for me and my community, we want the community and the impacted ground cleaned up. We want it all cleaned up, replant at least something to replace what happened there. We want this concept of horaire back in the community, all across the Navajo Nation, with us included. And all I want for my community is, you know, housing that are up to standards, nice houses. I think we've paid this for a long, long time, so we need that. Maybe money for education for the children, people around the area, have them work at these places when this cleaning is going on. Have them work there. So this is what I want for my community. And health-wise, we want a full, comprehensive health, steady, have the people get the people well. You know, with this mining, and they were using water, and just like the spill there, it affected the sand, the rocks along the river, and the plants, which were eaten by the animals, so the animals got affected, and the human eats the animal. So even with the rocks and the plants, they are also used in these traditional Navajo rugs, and they were still used, but we can never be sure how much affected they were, these things on Earth. We can't turn back history. We just have to, I guess, more learn from what happened and try not to let it happen again within our own powers. And I guess just make other people aware, educate each other.
Kagoshi?
And we can't really do much about history. We can learn from it.
Do you think we should keep using nuclear energy and nuclear weapons?
I don't think so. Look what's happened to it's annihilated a lot of people, a lot of places. I'm sure these people have their own customs, their land, their culture. These people that make these things want to obliterate everything, but we have to hang on.
This annual event you do, are you gonna do it next year?
We hope so, and we just have to keep track of what's going on out in the outside world. You might still have to be wearing mask, be tough, carry on, but we'll be doing something. We're still there.
Okay, yeah, I know you had a lot of Japanese people come, everyone from all over the world. Is it okay for people to come next year during your July 16th event?
Yes, we welcome anyone that's doing something for Mother Earth to, you know, help Mother Earth. And sometimes I wonder if all this abuse that she has taken, that's why we're going what we're going through now. That's what I think.
So that was our interview. Edith Hood and I enjoyed a nice, very warm afternoon taking that footage. And I was just happy the chickens in the background didn't cause any trouble. But yeah, Edith and the organization, they have been organizing this huge event. In the beginning, several folks came who knew about it. And every year it just grew and grew. And if you all, if it's safe to travel next year, like she said, they welcome everyone. They usually start about sunrise with a morning prayer. And then they take a walk from the residence down to the spill site. And at the spill site, Mr. Larry King recalls the morning when he was called into work because something had happened at the mill. And then when he got there, he found out what was going on because as he was driving up the road, there was an empty river the night before that was suddenly full. And he was wondering why, what's in the river. And it was definitely not rainwater, but over 90 million gallons of liquid contaminated radioactive water that the animals drank, that got into some of the plant life. And then of course you hear the stories of people burning their ankles down to their feet when they got in there to take their animals out of the wash because they were drinking the water. Quite similar, I think, to the stories of people drinking the black rain that fell from the sky because of that blast. It was so powerful. And anyone who's been in a contaminated area, I know there was some explosion at the Beatty site in Nevada. This was a few years ago, and I had no idea that it had happened, but I drove right through it. And when I was driving from Albuquerque to Reno for a conference, and the driver, my friend and I, we got to the hotel and we kept saying, wow, it's really hot. It's so dry here in the desert. And we were blaming Nevada for being hotter than New Mexico. And both of us, we were just dehydrated. And then the next day I opened my computer and just notice. So I understand I was exposed by driving through that blast. And it was nothing compared to what the people of Hiroshima felt, what the people of Nagasaki felt, and of course the Trinity site. And as I mentioned, the thousands of nuclear tests that have gone on in places like the Marshall Islands, Western Shoshone, and all over the world. So we're going to start transitioning to our next segment. And I'm going to ask Eileen to talk a little bit about this piece that we're going to go to next.
So thanks, Leona. Yeah, as we mentioned at the beginning of the program, the title of the webinar today is No More Hiroshimas, No More Nagasakis, No More Church Rocks. We just heard about Church Rock, and we're making these links between these events. A lot of times, unfortunately, there were a lot of amazing events today honoring, this anniversary that I saw. But to be honest, I didn't see any events mentioning Church Rock, the Church Rock spill of 1979. And that's an error. And that's problematic because it's really important that anytime we're talking about nuclear, that we talk about how it begins, which is with uranium, and that we talk about nuclear colonialism and how indigenous peoples have worldwide have been impacted. So we're making these linkages in order to break the nuclear fuel chain. And right now, this is really exciting. We're going to invite our guests. So we had Mr. Seishi Morikawa, who is a second generation Hibakusha. We heard from him. And we're going to welcome him back. And we're also going to welcome two of our friends who joined us for our last webinar. They're joining us from Cape Town, South Africa. And Leona and I are going to kind of reintroduce them. We're going to welcome Seishi back. And we're also going to welcome Edith via phone so that we can have sort of a virtual roundtable discussion with everyone, again, about what these connections look like. So I'm going to introduce Isaiah. So Isaiah Mongombe is the founder of the Missing Link, Shinkolobwe, Hiroshima, and Nagasaki, and also the founder and chairperson of the Congolese Civil Society of South Africa. So we welcome Eve, and Leona's going to welcome
Oh, yep. Okay, so if Eve and Isaiah would turn your cameras on. Great. It's so nice to see you again. So I'd like to welcome you back to our program. And I'm sorry about that. I would like to introduce Yves. He is a writer of a newspaper, magazine, and forum articles. He is a speaker, a researcher, and he is also the vice chair of the Congolese Civil Society of South Africa and the coordinator of the African Youth Congress. So right now, we're going to have just a minute to focus back on Shinkolobwe Mine. We had an excellent presentation from both of you last time. I know that if you watch the webinar, I was working on the tech and I was listening to your talks, and it was my, I guess, a coping mechanism for me not to be so emotional when you spoke, because some of the things that you were telling us, they were intense. And I know when we had first met, it really was, it really hurt me to hear the stories of what happened to the community. They had to move an entire town, and some of the things that are happening now. And then to think they want to reopen the mine. This is incredible. And so I just wanted to ask both of you if you would just share with us a couple of minutes for those who are new to the topic of Shinkolobwe, and those who have not seen the last episode. If you can just kind of summarize what happened there and what is your organization doing about it.
Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, Leona, and for allowing us to be in this session again. So this is something really is missing in the history of the world, where the atomic bomb which we made from Congo is not known because of the secrecy they were having surrounding the mine of Shinkolobwe, because they wanted really the world to don't know and to have no knowledge about this. So the consequence of that make the people living around there to pay a price of a very bad impact of radiation, which we have a similar cases happening there. You have no idea. Some of the family, as we say last time, their parents die with the brain come out of their nose because of the radiation. And that also there's a malformation of children. But the bad thing we don't understand, since the mining of Shinkolobwe up to now, there's nothing as scientific perspective or research or anything. So we are living around a very dangerous area where no one can do anything about it, and then generation and generation they're going to pay a price for that. So we have also a very bad impact in politics, economy, and the instability of Congo. It's cause of that uranium of Shinkolobwe. So those are the things, very important things. So I can leave Yves to take the rest of the explanation and what we do and what we're planning for this. But the very important thing, what we're looking for, our mission is to link, to bring back the true history, the complete history, to link Shinkolobwe, Japan, Mexico, and the US so that the history can be complete. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Isaiah, would you like to add to what's happening?
Yves.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Exactly. Thank you, Leona. Thank you, Aline, and thank everyone. And I think Isaiah tried to brief us about what happened in the past in Shinkolobwe and what does Shinkolobwe really represent in the history of the world as the starting point of the project where the ore came from. So for half of a century, Shinkolobwe didn't exist in the history of the world. Means removed from the map of the DRC, but also kept as a very secret place in the world, and no one talk about, no report, no books relate the history of Shinkolobwe. So nowadays, let's say that Shinkolobwe is back on the map, on the official map. It exists. but it's still existing as a ore supply point. Means in the perspective of the world, when we talk about Shinkolobo, or what the world talk nowadays about Shinkolobo, is all about the supply of the uranium. Means the main question is Shinkolobo still supplying legally or illegally some rogue countries with the uranium? That's the concern of the world today. But on the perspective of the indigenous people, Shinkolobo still represent a very closed book where there's no data about what happened in the past. There's no reparation up to now, and also no justice. So we think on our perspective as a movement, when we start this fight for the recognition of Shinkolobo, our main objective was to bring Shinkolobo back really on the table of discussion. Also to emphasize about the crime that happened in the past, the ongoing impact of that on the current population living around, but also to seek for a kind of reparation. And I'm so happy to share this moment with Seshi, who tried to explain to us how we can have impact of uranium on generation and generation. And what happened in Japan can try to highlight what can be the situation in DRC. And Isaiah just explained that there's no data, there's no report, there's no study on the Shinkolobo mine and environment. So I will just finish my speech or my point by saying that in 2002, when the mine collapsed, there was a study made by the UN expert, but the study only focused on the illegal activity going on. The means the direction that the uranium is taken illegally from Shinkolobo nowadays, but not on the impact of those people illegally mining in Shinkolobo. Means the perspective is still the same. There's no concern about the situation of population of indigenous people living around, but we move about the supply or not of the nuclear industry up to now. So I think we have to change the perspective of the world. And I like what we're doing in this movement because we're trying to say that in a way or another way, there's no reason to still keeping on supplying or carrying on with the nuclear. We have to stop that and start to focus on health, environment, disaster. So thank you for this moment we're sharing together. And let's see during the discussion, maybe there will be points that I have to complete on or not. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask all of our guests, please turn your cameras on. We're going to start to transition into the full roundtable discussion. I appreciate, and there's our artist. Thanks, we got a little quick view of what Mel is up to. Right now, we have a few questions for some of you, and we'd also like to invite you all to ask each other questions. I really appreciate that summary. We have, we know what it's like when there's illegal activity going on. I hear what you're saying. Something that is quite illegal happening right now in New Mexico is the building of a temporary waste dump for storage of high-level radioactive waste from all of the nuclear power plants in the country. And the company and the United States are even moving forward with this plan, even though it is technically illegal. But when you're talking about illegal mining, that's really scary because our guest last week, Rodrigue, he talked a lot about a new port that's being developed just east of the DRC right now. And so I have an idea that some of the plans that are happening could include export of uranium. And we heard last time how powerful that uranium is, 65% ore grade. That's incredible. And if other countries get their hands on that, besides the United States and what's happening in the world today, it's quite scary. And I doubt the regulations and the protection for workers, would be increased at all. So our audience is listening, and if there's anything that we can do to help to stop that mine from reopening, as well as the other the nuclear center over there. If you all could talk a little bit about that in a minute. But right now, I just want to ask all of our guests, I'm going to unmute Edith because Edith is on the phone and she's also here if anyone wants to ask Edith a question. And then we have a couple other friends that were invited to bring that are here with us today, and I want to invite them to turn on their cameras if they wish to do that. So I know we didn't have time for any speakers, any additional speakers, but I have a really good friend who's in the chat, and I'd love for her to turn her camera on if she wants to join. First of all, Eileen, we had a question for Seishi. Would you like to? We have this first question. We're going to throw it to Seishi, and then we'll start going back and forth to whoever wants to chime in. So please, Eileen.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that I'm really struck by is that this conversation, first of all, is taking place, that we have Eve and Isaiah here who are articulating the ways that Shinkwalobe mine, the impacts are continuing to reverberate into the future, right? And Seishi, you have articulated also that this event that took place 75 years ago, the impacts are still reverberating into the future. And I guess one thing I'm wondering is, how do we carry this forward? I know that I'm hearing at the core of your message and at the core of the message of both Eve and Isaiah that we can't forget. We can't forget what has happened, and we can't forget what continues to happen. So maybe each of you can say a little bit more about, for people out there who are watching this, what can we do to not forget? Seishi, would you like to start? Oh, we can't hear you though. You might have to unmute there.
Sorry. I'm thinking about the treaty. I mean the prohibition, the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. That might be into effect if when 50 countries ratify. But it's one thing. The important thing is people, the power. We need the power of people. Otherwise, even if the treaty comes into effect, the nuclear abolition cannot be realized. So this kind of activism is very important. I can't explain, but
yeah,
does it make sense?
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. People power and the importance of the treaty. And I mean, policy is important, but we also need grassroots activism. And that's definitely true. Isaiah and Eve, do you want to jump in and say anything about that? Isaiah, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think according to us as a civil society, I think people power, it's perfect. But before to get to people power, we must link the knowledge of the disaster of nuclear amongst mankind first. Meaning we have to link the 4 countries, according to our view, Japan, Congo, US, and Mexico, to make a global thing where it can be united so that we can see the impact of uranium all over the places, so that we throw the knowledge among mankind so that people can start coming in movement and empower the population so that we can change this logic of nuclear around the world, because this is the first time this link to happen. So we have to empower it so that something can change. That's our view. I don't know if you have something to say. Thank you.
I think we're sharing the same belief and the same conception of things. And as we know that what changed the world in the past was not decision coming from the top, was the pressure of people coming from the bottom. That's what changed the condition of workers in the past. That's what changed the condition of women on the past. And that what can change also policies regarding to nuclear in the future. So we are already doing something that will impact the world, believe it or not, because as Isaiah said, I think this is the first time that in the commemoration of the end of the Second World War, main points that was affected directly or indirectly by the nuclear are linked. We're doing that, we're writing history, and I think from this point, we start moving to the very important point and the very important decision that can be changed, that can change the world. So let's not break the chain, our chain, but let's link ourselves to break the nuclear chain. And I think from this point to there, we still have some step to go. It may look so hard, but we are in a very good direction.
Thanks. I like this really positive message, and everyone seems to be so proactive here. I know all too, like often we're like just talking about all of the bad stuff and the negative impacts, and sometimes we can get stuck there because we know it's still happening, and if we don't stop it, it's going to keep happening. Next, I'd like to go to Edith Hood. Edith Hood is joining us by phone. We heard the interview with her earlier. We saw the video. And also I showed some slides of her home community in the last episode. Edith, I just want to check to make sure you can hear us. Can you let us know you're there?
I am here and I am listening.
Great. Edith, I want to go to you next. We have the two representatives of the Congolese Civil Society of South Africa, and they were talking about the uranium mine. I mentioned earlier the Shin-Kolobwe uranium mine, and I think that there's a lot of connections between what happened in their community and your community. I was wondering if you just had any questions to Eve and Isaiah, or if there's any similarities that you can compare. And then how did your community get through it? Maybe some words of experience on, moving from the mess to the cleanup, perhaps.
Okay, so well, Leona and everyone, please, I sure would like to have met you, even though it was through the virtual, but it would be very nice to meet you guys. And I did hear the stories about South Africa that Leona told me about. And it's very tragic, with what happens to us along this nuclear fuel chain. As it is, we're probably like the early portion of that, and I was quite taken back when she told me about how the people dug the ore out of the ground with their hands. And I just have to think, I'm so sorry, But you were talking about how to get more people interested. I think that's one of the topics we always talk about, and for us, we're making people aware, and we're sort of mostly focusing on the younger generation, because they're the ones that are going to have to be taking over when some of us are gone, and just keep educating and making people aware starting in your own community and on out. So, but I am thankful for all you people that are doing this kind of work, to stop this thing globally. Is that it, Leona?
Juliet, and we're going to probably come back to you one more time, Edith, and I'd like to just say thank you again, and just if you could just speak a little bit louder, Shonda, that would be appreciated.
Okay.
Oh, and well, you heard Edith. I don't know if anyone has a response. If you want to just unmute or give us a hand signal. Edith's, living within the 2 uranium mines, and they got some cleanup, but like she said in her video, some of the cleanup they did, they scraped up the topsoil of the earth, taking away all the nutrients for the new plants and new growth. So those plants and trees haven't really come back. They moved that dirt like maybe less than a kilometer away, and they're concerned it's just going to blow back on the land and recontaminate. So will they have to go through another cleanup? And then the little goat that you saw with no hair, that was born in the community, decades later. So Edith is talking about a new generation, a new wave of resistance. Does anyone want to respond to that, or go for it? Just go ahead and unmute yourself and take it away, Isaiah.
Thank you. She make me to feel so sad and feel like a bit tears, because I don't know if you can imagine the 65% of concentration of rejection, where people in the manner of Shinkologo were taken from their hands without any protective clothes. So what is the impact for the next generation, And I hear someone say somewhere, the life of the rejection, it's stay million years, I don't know. And this is put me down, and I can see the pain my population, my people there in Congo going through for generations. So she just make me to feel it's very sad. We have a case around us, seriously. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Edith, did you want to respond to Isaiah?
I should like to have contact with him and his people out there, and listen to their stories, if that's possible. But even just having somebody hear you, talk with you, that's very good. Thank you.
I want to repeat something Edith said. I think it was Edith and another friend of mine who's working in Atlanta to stop a new nuclear power plant have both expressed interest in coming out to visit you all. And of course, with COVID, that's not possible right now. But I think with your interest in going to Japan, it sounds like one of the only ways to really experience what's happening is to go and see it for yourself. It's one thing to go to a museum or to look online, but to hear the firsthand accounts of people's stories is really powerful. When we do these walks out in the community for the commemoration that Edith organizes, we're walking between 2 uranium mines and a uranium mill, and it feels to me like we're within this circumference of death, and I'm sure that's how a lot of folks feel when they're dealing with nuclear. And so I'm just, I'm curious, all of you are working on these tremendous issues, and I'm wondering, what do you think are our next steps? Right now, it's the 75th anniversary, and we know that the first generation of Hibakusha, there's not many of them left, and we have, going on to the second generation and so on. I'm wondering, between all of you here today with us, what do you feel is the next step? We're just, doing these webinars for educational purposes, Some of us are talking about going to the United Nations, doing more education in the community. We heard today that three nations also ratified the treaty today. So we're getting even closer. I think that brings the number to 43 nations that have ratified the UN treaty to prohibit future nuclear weapons, which is just tremendous. And I think, you know, we're going to get there. We're going to get to 50 nations pretty soon here. But to stop the nuclear weapons, stop nuclear energy, and all of these things that we want to do, for your situation specifically, what are the things that your community needs? What are the next steps in Shinkolobwe, in Redwater Pond Road, and Hiroshima and Japan? Don't all jump up at once. We have some folks out there watching us. Go ahead, Yi.
Thank you. I think that we have a double duty, as we say. Yes, we have to carry on educating our people. And I like what Edith said about the transmission of the movement to the youngest generation, because they have to be involved in this issue to carry on with that, considering the energy that Edith have up to now to fight for the community. I think she needs more young people around also, and what she's already doing very well with the movement to involve the youth in. And Sichi is doing the same, coming from the second generation. And I even wonder how he has so much energy to positively talk about this for someone who has been personally impacted by the disaster. That is a very good thing for us. Means now there is also the other aspect of advocacy that need to be done. Because when we talk about the uranium and the disaster that it caused on one side, we mustn't forget that on the other side, people got advantage and sit in a strategic position in the world because of the disaster that happened. Today, the Security Council in the UN, it's designed by people who have advantage on the nuclear weapon up to now. Means in their mind, having the nuclear weapon is not a problem up to now. That's why the strategy is to push the world to sign the treaty for the non-proliferation, but not really to stop the nuclear weapon. So our view as victim, our view as community that have been affected need to be heard in such a level. So I think that will be one of the important points, the important step of our movement as a group. Now that we can link ourselves, we must find a way how to make our voice to be heard. It can be in terms of petition, it can be in terms of presentation, it can be in terms of attending any important meeting in that level, but at least for the next commemoration, it's very important for our voices to be heard as a group, not as people from one side, but now we have a structure that is willing victim, so we can try to face the group that is also linked and that is protecting the nuclear weapon. That's what I think for now.
Yeah, I think this is the foundation, the first foundation. So the next generation coming going to depend on us. So we have to do something, because if we don't, the third generation, they're going to be in a disaster. It means we are opening the door of a peace in the future. So we're saving life of generation coming and forever. Thank you very much.
This is really powerful to hear what's coming forward in this roundtable. And I just want to make sure, because it was really, powerful for, I think, Edith to connect with Eve and Isaiah, and, about the similarities in terms of the devastation of uranium mine. And I just want to make sure that we also make a connection between Eve and Isaiah, Shinkwalobwe, the mine where the uranium that was dropped on Seishi Morikawa's father. I just want to make sure that we make a connection between you all. And is there anything, Isaiah and Eve, that you want to say to Seishi Morikawa? And Seishi, is there anything you want to say to Eve and Isaiah?
Seishi, in fact, for us is a very sad moment at the same time. We're happy, but we have to say that it's a very sad time by meeting for the first time, personally, someone from Japan that will have been affected by all caring from our ground. But at the same time, it's a very happy moment for us because we're meeting a fellow brother that's also a victim that maybe didn't know that we are twins in the same situation because we were on both sides affected by the same problem. So I think from the moment we start to meeting now, that makes us also to learn from your experience because we're still in the first level where we're seeking for recognition, we're seeking for reparation, we're seeking to acknowledgement. But on your side, you have a step forward because the crime has been recognized as a crime, and I think you are trying to heal from that experience and bring positive energy for the fight. So for us, we also try to learn. We'll try to learn more about your experience. How did you come out from this sad moment to have such an energy that you're having today and trying to push the movement forward? That's very important for us. But at least we are very happy. At least we met for the first time, brother on the other side, and that is something that we can't forget. And thank you for the job that was done to link us tonight. And this is a very important moment for us. Thanks.
That is so powerful. So I think, Seishi, we lost you for a moment there, but Eve just shared some really powerful words about being a brother in the way that, both sides of the same monster have impacted your communities and your lives. So I'm sorry that you missed part of that, but the recording of this will be on Facebook. Isaiah or Seishi, is there anything you want to add here to speak any words to one another about this connection?
According to me, this connection was a dream. We're looking for it for years. And we tried. That's why our first event of Shinkologwe, the missing link, we invited the Council of Japan to be in the event so that we can create that link. And we're having even a meeting with the Embassy of Japan here in South Africa so that we can create this link. So for us, it's the one strong thing we are creating. And then this is what was missing in the page of the book of the world history. So let's put that page back and then let's start coming together. And I would suggest that if the 4 countries, according to me, can move around, I don't know if it's possible to places like all of us, some of us, we move to Shinkologwe, some of us, we move to Japan, some of us in Mexico and the US, so that we can have a reality of what we're bringing in humanity. So we're creating something different and we're driving the world in different way because they impose the world because of the power of uranium. They become the king of the world because of the power of uranium. They become the dictator of a constitution and a law and the legalizing what is illegal because of that power of uranium. It means our life system have another direction because of the circle of people have an influence over uranium. So what can we do? We must know we are fighting with a giant So we have to make a very strong foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaiah. Those are powerful words. And Seishi, I just want to know if there's anything you would like to add to what Eve and Isaiah are saying, or anything you'd like to say to them or to Edith.
Hello, this is Edith. Can you hear me?
Yes, Edith, we can hear you. Go for it.
Okay, we were talking about how we can get people on board to help us do these things, you know, with the nuclear energy. I was going to say that, you know, we've had contacted people with the Human Rights Commission, and that's one of the things we did. And then along with the health issues, we made contact with the American Cancer Society, and we're still connected with them also. And we've been recruiting younger people, and I'm surprised to say that there is, you know, small groups of the younger generation that do care about Mother Earth. So that's all I want to say right now. Thank you.
Yeah, Edith. Well, we've heard from South Africa on behalf of the DRC. We've heard from Edith on behalf of the Navajo Nation. And now we're going to give Seishi a chance to talk about what's the next steps, or responding to Eileen's earlier comment. Will you please share some words with us, Seishi, as we're bringing our roundtable to a close. So this is probably the final comment. I'd like you to take it away on this day, as it is the anniversary of the horrific things that happened to your people.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. For nuclear abolition, the power of the people of Japanese and American people is indispensable. I'm thinking, especially both countries have not ratified the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. So we'd like to focus on this issue. So raise awareness of peoples to join this stream. Sorry, I can't express very well.
No, of course. No, we completely understand. You're calling to bring people together, and in your statement, you also asked for unity. And I think we talk about many issues, and one of the things today, we're focusing a lot on the uranium that came to your country. And we also need to combine our fights, not just with the anti-nuclear war movement, but also the nuclear energy movement. And so I would just like to echo some of the things that you've said and everyone else have said about what we're going to do together next, and coming together as one voice, not as separate parts of the fuel chain, not separated by these invisible lines of colonization, or even separated by generations. I think we all need to come together moving forward. And this is one of our first times doing these webinars. Nuclear Issues Study Group has never done webinars before COVID, but I think even after things are safe, even after things change and when it's safe to gather again, I think we might continue some of these webinars, because it's a very easy way to connect us worldwide. So we're definitely going to wrap up our roundtable right now. I hate to ask everyone to say goodbye. Before I do, I'm just going to see if anyone has 10-second words you want to leave our audience with. Really short statements. If you do, go ahead and share them now, as this will be our last time to make comments, and then we're going to transition to the next part of our program, and then we're going to call it a night or a morning for you all over there. And so, yeah, Yves, please.
Yeah, thanks so much. And quickly, I think there is a point that I want to raise, is the hypocrisy of government. And I think we can see that when Sichi is speaking, because for a country that have been affected by the nuclear, I don't think that the government should be so low to ratify treaty that is involving issue like nuclear weapon. But also on the other side, when it comes to America, it's the same. For a country that's been involved in such a disaster on the front line, America shouldn't be one of the last countries to sign. But see a country like Congo, a country that have been also involved in a way, but up to now, it's not very easy to open a discussion about that, because the nuclear or the uranium in Congo is a boiling pot that can be used by our government on one side or on the other one. Means when our government is pressurized by Europe regarding democracy and human rights, they used to escape and try to make link with other government like Iran, like Korea, but proposing deals coming on facility about the supply of uranium. So they also use that to make a kind of balance of power when they are set on one side and they try to become friends with other government. So from how to make a grassroots movement in Congo in such a situation, talking about nuclear, talking about Shinkolobo is not only talking about the disaster, but it's also shaking government, the strong government that we have, people in power. So I think that way also where the problem comes. But we're not afraid of that, because we know that we have friends around the world who can also raise their voice with us and for us. So we'll go through that challenge, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Edith, anything else from Redwater Pond Road before we say goodbye?
For my community and I just wish best of luck to all you people that are working on this alongside us. And I'm thankful for you people. And I would like to take my leave now. I have things that I need to be doing here, but I want to thank you.
Thank you, Edith. You're free to go, and thank you for joining us. Talk to you next time.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. Machine. Okay, well, I think we're just about done. We've had a couple final thoughts, and we're going to move on now to our next thing. Okay, so Seishi, are you good? Any final words?
Oh, I'm very moved. So I have in my mind, but I can't express well. But anyway, I'm very glad to see you and continue to.
You can say in Japanese. We might not understand you, but if it's easier to express it, please, you are welcome to speak in your own language. Okay.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on, and Eileen is going to take us into our next thing. I really appreciate everyone coming out, and thanks again. And we're not done. We got a little bit more to go, but stick with us and go ahead, Eileen.
Well, I just want to thank our guests, our international guests, again for all of those words of wisdom. I'm just sitting with it, and they're sitting on my heart, and I'm just metabolizing and digesting all that was spoken here just now. That was so rich and so powerful. So right now, we're gonna just take 30 seconds of silence, just to honor this moment, to honor this anniversary of what happened, because 75 years ago today, human beings made the decision to break apart the strongest binding power in the universe, which is the force that holds atoms together. The atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima on August 6th and on Nagasaki on August 9th, 1945, represent an incredible act of horrific violence. And this colonial violence, it creates forever deadly waste. It creates radiation, it creates DNA damage and destruction. And it all begins with forcibly taking uranium out of the ground, mining and milling it. And this has created devastating impacts for Indigenous people around the world, including Edith Hood's community, as we heard at Redwater Pond Road, including Eve and Isaiah's community in Shinkwalobwe in Africa, and especially including Seishi Morikawa's community and his father and all who lived and continue to live in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 150,000 souls were lost 75 years ago, and 80,000 in Nagasaki. And we will not forget this incredible act of violence because it actually continues today. So I'd like for our listeners, our viewers out there, and our guests right now to just take a moment to sit with all that has been spoken, all of the emotions that have arisen in the last 2 hours. And we're going to take 30 seconds now to honor that. Thank you. Thank you for honoring the heaviness of this day. We don't want to forget. And so now I'd like to turn it over to Cal, who is going to check in with our resident live artist. We can't forget about our resident artists. They've been hard at work. So Cal, please take it away.
Thanks, Eileen. Thanks, everyone. So Melina, hi. I have a couple of questions for you in a moment, but really just want to check in. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. I don't know if you can see, right, but there's a lot going on, inspired by the presentation of the world map, where everyone's at, starting with the image of the atom bomb, but then covered up by the actual stories of people and what they had to say, and the lotus and the flute, messages of hope and music. And the yellow is like connecting everyone. So I got our friends down here. I got you, or not you, but Eileen and Liana. And yeah, I tried to draw almost everyone so far. And this is like the passing of generations, and how the struggle has affected people for generations and will continue to be passed along. And yeah, that's where I'm at so far.
Oh, beautiful. You've really captured so much of what we could hear today in the theme of the connections that are being made, and that takes expression from everyone. It's really beautiful, Melina, how you've been able to capture all of that in visual form at this stage. So Melina, you are a community organizer, as is everyone we've heard from today, for our own community, and you similarly work with information that can be heavy, especially when it's within your own community. As an artist, how does art, you making art and art, other people's art in general. How do you think that that can help us digest heavier, overwhelming content?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I think similar to Aki Rose, who we heard from, kind of using art like the lotus flower as a way to like sieve through all the contamination and purify it in some ways, or try to process the overwhelm and the trauma and the vicarious trauma we often experience when delving into these issues, and create ways for people to digest it from a certain angle or various angles or little pieces that make sense or draw it all together. For me personally, it helps me process information. And so it was really amazing to listen to everyone's stories tonight and draw people as they were talking and really connect with what they were saying and like regurgitating it through my own lens onto the paper as another way to share the information and have it travel that much further. And I think it's so cool that this is over Zoom because, like Eileen said, it's connecting us globally in ways that maybe weren't happening before. And I think, yeah, like Isaiah said, this connection is a dream and they've been waiting for it for years. And it's really cool to see how, like visually for me, to see everybody connected and everyone's struggles interconnected and the unity seen through all, and then have a way to kind of condense and like look at it all together as a beautiful mosaic of fighting the good fight.
Beautiful. I really appreciate too how the background for everything that you just created was Earth. And that's where we all are, and that's where we all are united, and the dreams come from her. And thank you so much for being here tonight, as well as everyone else, and really excited to see, yeah, how this all ends up, and want to also encourage folks who are watching to really, we've come to a point in time all together right now, and if you can express, find a way, writing, drawing, try to draw what Melina did, lots of things, but really express what has happened for you tonight, and what's going through you right now, because you can look back on this for years, in future years, and say, remember that one point when we all connected. So
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Melina. So I'll send it your way, Taya.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the some of the stuff that we're asking folks to do. We are not doing these webinars just for fun. Some of the real work happens just by you watching and helping us to do take some very small steps to support the work that we're doing. I'm going to talk a little bit about the fundraising, and then we're going to go to the whole tech pitch. So I switched it up a little bit. Our organization is a volunteer organization. We operate on a shoestring budget, and we need a lot of support from folks, not just in South Africa and Japan, and of course our artists and some of our musical guests are, you know, all over the country as well. We definitely appreciate everyone who can help to support the work that we're doing here today. For example, the artist who just joined us, Melina, I'd like to say thank you very much. The artists who joined us previously and every single guest, we strive to honor their time and commitment to this work. We do the best to give everyone an honorarium, be it very modest. It's a very modest honorarium that we give our guests, but out of 6 episodes and a multitude of speakers and artists and musicians, it can really add up. And I'm just going to speak personally that I've also contributed to other webinars. I've prepared videos. I've been a speaker for countless events from July 16th and also for the anniversaries of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And not once was I offered an honorarium for, it had to be at least over 100 hours of work that I put in preparing my speeches and all of that. I have normally in the past received honoraria for my talks. This is one of the things that I do as an organizer, but I just want to really emphasize that if your organization is asking anyone to do something for your organization who is not in your organization, that it is imperative that you recognize and honor the work of all of our community organizers, our activists, our advocates, our elders, and our community people. We really need to give thanks because they are the ones on the front lines, and everybody deserves to be honored for their time and their work and their experience. And so with that, I'm going to remind folks, when we started the webinar series, we were hoping to raise $6,000 and bring in 6,000 comments for the Holtec draft environmental impact statement. Right now, our total of donations is about $2,500. So we're lacking a good $3,500. And I was making a little joke in the practice that whoever donates tonight, I will double that donation. I will personally make your donation multiplied by 2. So whoever is out there listening, I'm going to show you how to make a donation online. You can also send checks. Look at the links in the chat. This will be available for you in the future, as well as the address where folks can send checks payable to our fiscal agent, the Indigenous Rights Center. And so the Indigenous Rights Center is our fiscal agent who will be cashing those checks on behalf of our organization. And I also want to say thank you to them. They've done a lot of work to keep us going. And so right now I'm going to share their webpage because that's where the donations will go to, that all on your computer. Just up, hit return, and then you're going to go to this donate link right here. When you click on the donate link, it's going to redirect you to the PayPal page, and you're going to enter a dollar amount. Let's just say, $5. We're going to make this donation with either PayPal or with the debit and credit card option. When you hit the either button, it's going to take you to another page where underneath the $5 donation, it's going to ask you, well, it's going to ask you to log in first, but I'm not going to log in right now. I just want to remind everyone before $1 and or more, however much you want to donate. Underneath there's a little space where you can make a note to the seller or to specify what the payment is for. Please enter for NISG. And the same thing goes for any checks that anyone is going to send. In the memo line, please specify for NISG. Again, checks can be made payable to the Indigenous Rights Center. And memo line for NISG. And check the links on where to send those checks. And this link for the website will also be available to you there. Next, I'm going to ask, I'm going to call back our co-host, Eileen O'Shaughnessy, if you could help me out with the next part. We're going to just do a really quick pitch for the comments that we're asking folks to send regarding Holtec and the waste control specialist. Thanks, Eileen.
Thanks, Leona. So we're actually going to turn it over to Taya Salazar, who I introduced earlier, who's a fabulous core group member. Taya has a presentation prepared. Hi, Taya.
Hi, everyone. Hi. I'm going to share my screen right now. Perfect. Can you see? Perfect. Okay, so, oops. So now is the time to submit public comments to Holtec, and Holtec is a dishonest private company that is transporting all of nuclear waste in the United States to New Mexico. And the Nuclear Issue Study Group urges everyone to submit comments on the NRC's draft environmental impact statement for Holtec's application to build the world's largest radioactive waste dump in New Mexico. And so what you have to do to submit these public comments is to click this link, this tiny URL right here, tinyurl.com/Holtec DEIS sample letter. And you can also email this comment to holtec-cisdeis@nrc.com. And this subject must include this docket ID NRC 2018-0052 subject line. And please CC us in protectnewmexico@gmail.com. This is essential to what we're fighting for in the Nuclear Issue Study Group. We want to prevent the storage of nuclear waste in our state that has already been taken advantage of plenty of times by the nuclear industry. So thank you very much, and please send these comments.
Great, thanks, Taya. And we have one more bit of business before we go to our final video. I'm going to ask everyone again to go to your internet browser. We have some friends in Japan who are working very diligently on holding their government accountable for the issues related to the Fukushima Daiichi power plant. Right now, there's a petition online that I would like to share. We have, I also made a simple tiny URL. So if you can't remember a long website, the simple tiny URL is, I'm going to share my screen right here and show you what the tiny URL is, because it's a lot easier to remember those tiny no Fukushima water in Pacific Ocean. So when you go to tinyurl.com, no Fukushima water in Pacific Ocean, it'll take you to this petition, which the organizers of the event have prepared the description of what's happening. TEPCO and the Japanese government want to start dumping radioactive wastewater from Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station into the Pacific Ocean. So you can find more information here, and they're asking that folks sign the petition. If you click this link here, it'll take you to the petition site, and they would like everyone to sign as individuals to increase the amount of support. So it's very simple. You just enter your email address, your name, your country, your state or region, if you have an organization that you belong to. And it's always good to personalize your message. So after you enter all of the information, click submit, and the deadline is August 31st. So thank you for that. And I'm going to throw it back to Eileen. Thanks, Eileen.
Thanks, Leona. So yeah, we just want to echo what Taya said, make some noise about Fukushima, sign that petition. If you can, submit a comment for Holtec, please do that. And we also appreciate donations. And please, to echo the words of our earlier speakers, please make noise about what has happened from the beginning of the nuclear fuel chain in 1945 with these devastating bombs. As we have seen throughout this entire webinar, the impacts continue. So we're going to close the program now with a song from our musician who we heard from earlier, our friend Ikaki, who again is a Japanese flute musician. And this next song is a song that she did with a collaborator named Joe. And their collaboration is named Ikaki li colibri, which is a reference to hummingbirds. and kind of the resiliency of the hummingbird. And she told a really beautiful story about how hummingbirds kind of are a symbol of being able to take action and to, you know, do what's right even against great odds. Hummingbirds are small, but they're mighty, and they have the ability. Actually, I have a hummingbird right here on my body, and that's one of the reasons I love hummingbirds. They're beautiful, hopeful, strong creatures, and I think after all that we've heard today, that's a good reminder. So Smile is the name of this next song. And again, I'm going to just share a little bit of Iki's words about this next song. She says, "We could see that we are no more alone, and that we are an essential part of Mother Earth, and that connecting with nature, the gentle sounds of nature, the beauty of nature is one way that we can find our grounding and find a way to continue in spite of all the suffering, in spite of the difficulties that we've heard." So without further ado, we're going to end with the song Smile by Ikaki, les colibri.
So that was the video from our very awesome friend who is actually in Japan. And I'd just like to invite everyone, please turn your cameras on. We all are here together with everyone, and we're just gonna do a last wave goodbye. That song, it starts out as a regular melody, but it's Aki's personal arrangement to end on a happy note. And so with that, I think with all of us being here together, new friends and new connections, we can all sleep happier tonight knowing that we're going to continue this fight together, all of us, to dismantle the nuclear beast. So thank you, everyone, and good night to our audience. We'll see you next time. You all stay safe out there, wear your masks, don't forget to send your comments, and I'll be looking out for those donations. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.